So, what is an architect? An architect is a person whose job is to design new buildings and make certain that they are built correctly. It is a person who is responsible for achieving a particular plan or aim. Architecture in the Philippines today is growing and evolving. It is the result of natural growth and rich with absorption of varied influences. Filipino architects are now showcasing our tradition to the world through their masterpiece. Today, we are going to talk about one of the architects that brought pride in our country, which is architect Juan Arellano.
Juan Arellano was born on April 25, 1888 at Tondo, Manila. He died on December 5, 1960 at Metro Manila. He is known for neoclassic and Art Deco buildings. He was given a Medal of Merit awardee by the Philippine Institute of Architects. His parents are Luis C. Arellano and Bartola de Guzman. He is a part of the Philippine Institute of Architects. He studied at Drexel University and Ateneo de Manila University. Juan Marcos de Guzman Arellano was a Filipino architect and a painter. Best known as the architect of Manila's Metropolitan Theater, the Manila Post Office Building, Jones Bridge, and the development of Quezon City. Born into a cultured, artistic family, Juan attended the Ateneo Municipal and graduated in 1908. His first interest was reportedly painting, and he trained under Lorenzo Guerrero, the Ermita Master, Toribio Antillon, and Fabian de la Rosa. Arellano went to the Pennsylvania Academy of the Fine Arts in 1911 and then transferred to Drexel to finish his bachelor's degree in architecture. He was trained in the Beaux Arts and subsequently went to work for George B. Post and Sons in New York City, where he met and collaborated with Frederick Law Olmsted Jr. Returning to the Philippines, he opened an architectural practice with his brother, Arcadio. After his retirement in 1956, he returned to painting and had a solo show at the Manila YMCA in 1960, exhibiting over 300 paintings.
Juan Arellano's famous works. The first one is Metropolitan Theater in 1935. The concept of the theater was explained by Juan M. Arellano, the architect, during one of his interviews in January 1930. The Philippines need a modern cultural center for operas, concerts, and plays, and he planned to achieve a monumental one through its dimension, elevation, and splendid decoration, and through its harmonious liens, it would symbolize an organ or a cathedral. Arellano was influenced by early Filipino art, which uses local motifs and diverse imagery of Philippine flora. Aside from his knowledge on Filipino art was the factor of economy, which both helped the architect in having a modern design approach to his theater. Meanwhile, the phrase "on wings of song" gave the structural configuration a box-shaped auditorium flanked by pavilion on both sides. The mix of modernization and romanticization resulted in AVH Hartendrop labeling its modern expressionism. The Metropolitan Theater facade resembles a stage being framed by a proscenium-like central window of stained glass which carries the name of Metropolitan with flora and fauna motif surrounding the label. Next one is Legislative Building 1926, or as we known as the National Museum of Fine Arts, Manila. This old legislative building is without a doubt the best example of neoclassical architecture in the Philippines. It has been the place for country's statesmen for decades. It has witnessed wars, demonstrations, and calamities. The building today is the present National Museum of the Philippines, located in Burgos Drive. This imposing edifice stands across the old walled cities of Manila, which is the Intramuros. Originally designed by American Ralph Harrington Juan and Filipino Antonio Toledo in 1918 to be future National Library as intended for Burnham Plan of Manila. The construction of building started in 1918 but delays because of funding. In 1926, the Philippine legislature decided to move into the building and thus changing the layout of its exterior. The interiors of structure were designed by great Juan Arellano, who also built several Manila edifices such as Post Office Building and the Manila Metropolitan Theater. The Legislative Building was completed in 1926 and was inaugurated on July 11 of the same year. Both of the Philippine Legislature and National Library occupied the building. The total cost of construction was $2 million or 4 million in peso in 1926 value. The third one is the Manila Post Office Building. The Manila Post Office Building stands proudly along the banks of Pasig River and has witnessed many of the nation's historical events, from the American occupation to the Battle of Manila in 1945 up to the present time. Its elegance made Manila the best city in the Far East. Constructed in 1925 and designed by the great Juan Arellano, together with American Ralph Juan and fellow Filipino Tomas Mapua. It is built in neoclassical architecture, which is one of the greatest examples of American colonial architecture in the Philippines. Next is the Old Haro Municipal Hall, or in Spanish, Municipio de Haro, is a heritage building which previously served as a seat of government of former city of Haro in Iloilo Province. Juan Arellano is the architect of the Art Deco building. The historic building is 2 stories high, made from mix of concrete and has a footprint of less than 100 square meters, or 1,100 square feet. Lastly is the William A. Jones Memorial Bridge, commonly known as Jones Bridge. It is an arc grider bridge that spans the Pasig River in the city of Manila, Philippines. It is named after the United States legislator William Atkinson Jones, who served as the chairman of U.S. Insular Affairs House Committee, which had previously exercised jurisdiction over the Philippines and the principal author of the Jones Law that gave the country's legislative autonomy from the United States. Built to replace the historic Puente de España, or the Bridge of Spain, in 1910s. The bridge connects Quintin Paredes Road at the Binondo District to the Padre Burgos Avenue at the Ermita District. It was originally designed by Filipino architect Juan M. Arellano using neoclassical architecture. The first incarnation of bridge features 3 arcs resting on 2 heavy piers, adorned by falkstone and concrete ornaments, as well as 4 sculptures on concrete pillars, allegorically representing motherhood and nationhood. The original bridge was destroyed during World War II by retreating Japanese troops and reconstructed in 1946 by the U.S. and Philippine Public Works. The reconstructed bridge retained the 3 arcs and 2 piers but removed all the ornaments. The bridge was first partially restored in 1998. In 2019, the city government of Manila began a rehabilitation project to restore the Jones Bridge to its near original design using Biox art architecture similar to Pont Alexandre III in Paris and the return of 3 original sculptures.
Like his contemporary and fellow architect Antonio Toledo, Juan Arellano's design philosophy is that the buildings should possess a personality and spirit that is distinctly Filipino, drawing on people's history and folklore for inspiration.